Now to the highlight of this evening. Desmond, I see you. Look up. Look at me. The presentation of the 2015 Harmony Award. Past recipients include Nishiyu Walkers, Jeremy Dias, Romeo Dallaire, Herb Carnegie, June Callwood, and Stephen Lewis and Michelle Landsberg. Not bad company, my friend. We're going to ask celebrated journalist Royson James to introduce our reward recipient. Royson, of course, is the municipal affairs columnist for the Toronto Star, does such amazing work. He's a passionate advocate for social justice and for this city. Royson.
Whenever I feel down, I get to hear people like you, and I tell you, so inspiring. So earlier this year, the Police Services Board Chair, Alec Mukherjee, tried to explain his reluctance to publicly challenge then Police Chief Bill Blair and forced him to comply with restrictions placed on carding. Mukherjee said, "No one wants to go to war with the chief of police." Obviously, Desmond Cole wasn't listening. He declared war against carding, and he did it staring Chief Blair in the eye. Tears welled up in my eyes that day at police headquarters as Desmond spoke. He was not in a Harry Rosen suit. He didn't arrive before the Police Services Board with a community membership list of 10,000 people behind his name. He didn't belong to the African Canadian Legal Clinic or the Human Rights Commission. He was just Desmond Cole, journalist, like me, black man, like me, and like me, profoundly angry at Mayor John Tory, Chief Blair, the Police Services Board, and the phalanx of people who by their silence enabled our police to disrespect and demean black citizens with impunity. Desmond told them he had written his last news story on carding. Objective reporting doesn't cut it anymore, he said, not in the face of an oppressive range of anti-black racism. From now on, he'll be an activist on the carding file, and he won't be silenced until the practice is ended. Then, his voice rising to a crescendo to cap his chilling speech, Desmond asked the board, "How are you going to quell the righteous anger I'm expressing in front of you today?" I knew what it meant for a journalist to do that, to become exposed and vulnerable because the alternative is indignity and insult. This wasn't a millionaire celebrity espousing a cause. This was a working class man putting at risk his livelihood to challenge an evil practice. I felt the tears rolling down onto my glasses that day as Desmond spoke. Instead of quietly whisking away the tears, I took off my glasses and stared at the mayor through water-blurred eyes. The fight had just begun. Soon, a Toronto Life magazine cover story documented the nearly 50 times Desmond had been stopped by police, not because he was a suspect, but because of the skin I'm in. This was the tipping point. Soon, a coalition of citizens, notable and powerful and indignant, demanded reform. They asked Torontonians to step forward and make known their distaste of this fear-mongering practice. Your own Gordon Cressy led that group and told the news conference This is the moment when this city comes together and says, starting now, carding is stopped forever. Measures since announced by the provincial government are designed to tame carding. They're a start. And for many, Desmond's story and subsequent persistent advocacy on the issue is their starting point on carding. That would be disrespectful of the scores of citizens and organizations who kept the fight going. The Law Union, John Sewell, Black Action Defense Committee, Jamaican Canadian Association, African Canadian Legal Clinic, Audrey Campbell and Pacer, Deputy Chief Peter Slowly, and his progressive officers, Michael Thompson and Alec Mukherjee in the Toronto Star. In 2013 and 2014, when journalists were distracted by the salacious escapades of one notorious mayor, Rob Ford, citizens kept the flame flickering beneath the carding controversy. Desmond's gripping account in Toronto Life was the final igniter. About 2 years ago, after we shared a speaking event at a community event in Etobicoke, we chatted. I said, Desmond, I hope you're getting paid for all your appearances in the media. I had heard him on just about every media outlet as the go-to commentator, and he was just brilliant. I just want to tell you, man, that you are very, very, very good. You don't understand how good you are. You are perfect for radio and television. It's good to hop from CFRB to Talk 640 to Metro Morning to CP24, but make sure you get paid. By now, we all know how much of a powerful and irresistible and indomitable voice Mr. Cole has become. And tonight, it is my distinct pleasure to invite him to the podium. Presenting Desmond with the 2015 Harmony Award will be Dr. Alec Mukherjee, human rights and equity advocate, community organizer, and most recent chair of the Toronto Police Services Board. And now he is a distinguished visiting professor in criminology and the Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, Ryerson University. Dr. Mukherjee and Desmond Cole. Whoa. Okay. I have notes. I'm going to get my notes. Marcy, when I was looking down, I was nervous. I was looking at my notes. I have notes. And I want to say that it's such an honor. This whole thing is really, but especially, you know, Marcy, in your introduction, you mentioned that Royson's doing excellent work at the Toronto Star, which of course is true, but you also are doing amazing work, and I'm so
happy that you could present me with this award. And I would say the same thing for Dr. Mukherjee during your time during the Police Services Board, which couldn't have been easy. Thank you for your work. And of course, Royson James, well, you're just one of my heroes, so what more can I say? I'm so honored. I also want to thank all of my friends who have decided to come out here tonight and support me, many on extremely, extremely short notice. I love you guys very, very much, and I want to thank you for coming this evening. One of the folks that many of you may know and would have seen in the video that we saw about Harmony Movement's work is Rima Dib, who is here this evening. And I want to thank Rima and Kirk. Kirk Morris wrote that. I can't even read what he wrote about me. I started reading it in the program and I decided to stop because I wanted to actually get through this evening without losing my mind and breaking down. But they're both just amazing people, and I had the pleasure of having dinner with them several months ago. And Rima started talking about the work that she does with Harmony Movement and about what kinds of techniques that they use in order to talk to young people in schools about ideas of anti-racism and privilege and equity. And the techniques are just incredible. I don't know if you guys know, do you guys know the exercise where, you know, you have a garbage bin in the front of the classroom and you tell all the students that they're gonna throw a piece of paper into the garbage bin, but some of them are sitting in the front row, like 2 feet away from the thing, so they can't miss. But then there are people at the back who have absolutely no chance. They can't even see what they're throwing at. And this is a way of talking about privilege and what your starting point is and what your advantages are. Or the exercise where you play a game, but some of the kids in the classroom don't know any of the rules. And so, you know, they're just expected to participate like everybody else, and the other kids who got explained the rules don't help the kids who didn't get the explanation. And then we talk afterwards about, why didn't you help those people who were clearly at a disadvantage? Why didn't you help them when you knew that they couldn't help themselves? So I just want to start off by saluting the incredible work. Those kinds of techniques and those stories and those methods of explaining what we talk about when we talk about these complex issues, they're not just for students, they're not just for young people, they're for me, they're for everybody. And I am so proud and honored to be here because of the work that the Harmony Movement does. One of the folks who decided to come out here tonight and support me is my roommate, Terrence Hamilton. And I want to tell you a story, because you guys know that I'm a storyteller. And I want to tell you a story about the last time that a police officer, for absolutely no reason, decided to ask me for my identification. And it was a few months ago. It was summertime, beautiful evening, come home from a long day, and me and Terry decided we're going to listen to some music. Had the window open. I don't know if somebody called the police or if they just drove by, but sure enough, 2 police officers showed up at the door. They knocked, said, "You know, the music's a little loud." No problem, we can turn it down. And then the next thing, these 2 officers looking right at me, even though there was 2 of us. "I'm gonna need some ID, sir. I'm gonna need to see some identification." Some of you may know I've been through this a couple of times before. So I said, "Officer, are you sure that I actually have to tell you whatever it is that you're about to ask me?" And he said, "Yes, you must do so." And so at that point, I looked over at Terry, my tall, white, government-employed roommate. And Terry looked back at me, and then Terry gave the officers his identification. I gotta tell you something, guys. There are so many opportunities for us to stand up for each other that we miss, me included. And I'm proud of my roommate, for standing up for me that day, understanding that situation. And I think it sets a really good example of what we can all do when we see somebody in a tough spot. We can stand up for them if we have the opportunity, and we should. And I think that that story is a fair illustration of the idea that carding obviously is not over. No matter what rules are going to be introduced with the province, which I'm very glad to say have come, this fight is not over, because the instinct that police have been, they say that they're not trained to racially profile. It's amazing how you could do something so consistently that you were never trained on. But that culture that says people like me have to submit to whatever requests that the police want is deep-seated, and it goes well beyond policing. So it's not going to be gotten rid of by some provincial regulations, although I welcome them. But what I want to say about that is that we have made an important stride in taking our power back. Just the imposition of receipts in Toronto, which Bill Blair didn't really want to do and which a lot of people fought against, that dramatically reduced the amount of carding. Just having to write a little piece of paper accounting for what they were doing stopped the police almost dead in their tracks. And so, while we may not be able to eliminate this practice immediately, right, with these rules and these regulations, what we can do is take some of our power back. We can make sure that fewer people are being entered into the database. We can make sure that more people know their rights, are going to stand up for them. And by speaking out together, we can teach the police that if they want to continue this practice, we are going to meet them everywhere that they are in this city and in this province and in this country. So it's not over, but we should feel good about what we're doing together, I believe. You know, one of the most wonderful things about what happened to me after that Toronto Life story got published was that strangers started coming up to me and telling me their stories of police brutality, of racial profiling and racist policing, their stories in the school system, in the child welfare system. People came and they shared stories with me. And it's been an honor, and it continues to be an honor, to hear other people's stories, and that they have the courage to share them. And, you know, I want to dedicate this award that I'm receiving tonight to people like that, to a woman who's old enough to be my mom, who told me that when she drives her Lexus to work at night, this is a black woman, that the police stop her and they say, "Whose car is this?" This award is for her. This award is for a gentleman who stopped me in the station at Bathurst Station, and he said, "When I see people like you on television standing up against these kind of practices, I feel proud to be a black man." This award is for him. This award is for Mike Miller, a black man who was filming what the police were doing in his community the day after he and I met to film a Know Your Rights video. It's amazing how the people say, you gotta know your rights, but I tell you, if the police want to target you, you're gonna have a problem whether you know your rights or not. And Mike was filming something in his neighborhood, a police interaction, that got his attention. And 2 Tavis officers came right up as far as this microphone is from my face to Mike and intimidate him, and he refused to stop filming. This award is for Mike. This award is for Cheyenne Munias, an 18-year-old Indigenous woman who was walking to school and was stopped by 2 police officers who insisted that they had to get her personal information from her. And she refused and said, "I'm just going to school." And you know, she has to live with that encounter for the rest of her life. But she resisted and resisted and resisted until these police officers, they backed off, but they said to her, "This is not over." They have no idea how right they are because it's not over. And I salute her for standing up. The last thing I want to say is that Royson talked about anger. He talked about when I was speaking in front of the Police Services Board and I said, how are you going to quell the righteous anger that myself and other people are expressing about injustice? Anger, I think, can rouse us, but anger can't hold us together. It can't nurture us and sustain us. Only love can do that. So we have to remember that. We have to remember that it's more important to love and to support each other than it is to identify our enemies and try to defeat hatred and ignorance. And that in fact, by loving and sustaining each other, we are actually engaging in that process all the time. So let us go forward in love. Let us go forward in justice, for equity, and for a better day for everybody in this room, for everybody on this planet. And let us know that the work we are doing is making a difference. I love you guys so much.
Thank you, Desmond. Thank you.
These two young women sitting next to me, don't sleep on these women. They're going to be everywhere. I love you guys.
Thank you to Cara and Star, and thank you to all the award winners. Without you, we won't have this evening because we have nobody to honor. And I want to thank all those people traveling from Eastern Ontario, Russell High, and Laurie Taylor, and of course the Sudbury area. And we're truly honored that you're here with us, and we'd be happy to give you an award every year if you can do the same thing again. I want to thank, this is my Oscar speech. Marcy, you want to? Thank you very much, Marcy. You made the evening so enjoyable and run so smoothly. Presenters, I know that I've always calling you and says, can you do it again? Can you do it again this year? And I want to thank you on behalf of the Harmony Board for doing it for us again. Thank you. And of course to all of you, thank you very much for coming tonight. Of course, Harmony Movement will not be here without the effort of our three co-founders, Gordon Cressy, Mary Ann Chambers, and Joseph Wong. They are the one who has the who had the foresight to get this started and look at what we have become today. And we have a board to carry it through. I want to also mention one person, Pamela Appelt. She's our honorary patron. Pamela, where are you around? Yeah. Pamela, let's give a big hand for Pamela. And then, of course, our board members, Ashley, Pam, Marguerite, Bernice, Chris, Miriam, Beverly, Warren, Yasmin, and Sunu. Big hands. And of course, our staff, many of you have known them. They've come to your schools, your districts, and your board. Ross, Shafiq, Caitlin, Bijou, Corinne, Rima, Brittany. And one more person you haven't seen. She's Janelle. She works at the office. But she's the one who runs the show. And thank you all to all the volunteers tonight. And our production team, Joan, Duncan, B.B. Blanc, and our venue, Toronto Public Library, and El Eat. Thank you a lot. Thank you very much.